You are listening to I Am Refocused Radio with your host, Shamaya Reed. This show is designed to inspire you to live your purpose and regain your focus. And now, here's your host, Shamaya Reed.
Hey, welcome to I Am Refocused Radio. We are here once again. Today, we have a special guest. We're going to talk to Dr. William Attaway, and he's the founder of Catalytic Leadership. You go to his website, catalyticleadership.net, but he's not just a leader. He is also someone who's been in the church ministry, and we're going to learn all about him today. So first and foremost, I want to welcome you, William, to the show. How you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me on.
Yeah, man. And for today's topic, let's talk about the power of leadership coaching. And before we dive into that topic, let's learn a little bit more about you. And I understand that you're part of ministry. So tell us a little bit about that.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm a pastor of a local church, but before that, I'm a husband and I'm a father. I've been married to my wife Charlotte for almost 25 years, and we have two daughters, one of whom is heading to college next week. That's hard to believe, and the other is a rising sophomore in high school. So that those are just really the most important parts of my life after my relationship with Jesus. I've been a local pastor in a church outside of Washington, D.C. for the last 18 years, in ministry for just over 25 now, and coming to that out of the business world, where I led leaders and teams in that context. So for 20 plus years now, I've been coaching leaders, helping them to get better in a variety of different places, because I believe that when a leader gets better, as Craig Rochelle puts it so well, everybody benefits, right? Everybody they lead, their team, their employees, their customers, their clients, their families. Everybody benefits when a leader gets better. And so that's what I do. I help leaders to intentionally grow and thrive.
And leaders, like you said, they make everyone better, and they are committed to whatever is necessary for them to change and to becoming that leader. Mm-hmm. So with today's topic, the power of leadership coaching, first and foremost, break down catalytic leadership and what does that actually mean?
You know, when I went to college, I went as a pharmacy major. I had worked in a pharmacy in high school, and I thought that this would be a great way to invest my life. I got through chemistry, inorganic chemistry, got to organic chemistry, and decided that this is really not what I want to spend the rest of my life doing. And so I changed directions. But in my brief chemistry studies, I discovered the power of a catalyst. A catalyst is something that you add to a mixture or a compound in order to incite or to accelerate significant change. I've been a student of leadership for over 3 decades. I attended my first leadership conference when I was 15 years old. And as I thought about that definition of what a catalyst is, I thought about the great leaders that I had studied and learned from even at that point in my life. And I realized that every great leader was a catalytic leader. They incited or accelerated significant change in order to make an impact. That's what great leaders want to do. And so that's what a catalytic leader is. What I do is I help leaders to become more catalytic, to either start or accelerate significant change in what they're leading.
And to the individual, when they decide that they want to get better at this, if you will, why is it so important that they find a personal path versus just have a generic A, B, C, D in there, all of a sudden a leader? Why is it important to customize a actual action step plan?
That's a great question. I think that at the beginning, all of us are going to have to learn the fundamentals, the basics. But there comes a point where you need to understand how you are designed, how you are wired, how you're created by God. You have certain gifts and skills and passions and talents and a personality. And how you lead comes best out of those things. When we start leading, we often will copy leaders that we admire, leaders that we might have worked for, or leaders that we've admired from afar. And that's normal. Everybody does that. The problem is when you stay there. Then over time, you just become a bad copy of a great leader instead of becoming the leader that you are designed and created to be. That's why your path is for you. It needs to be customized around how you are designed, how you are wired. And that's what a good leadership coach does. They help you discover what your strengths, your passions are, what your next steps are for you to move forward in your journey of becoming the greatest leader you can possibly be.
Once again, talking to Dr. William Attaway and listen to iRefocus Radio, talking about today's topic, the power of leadership coaching. When someone connects with you and you're starting them off, what's the beginning looking like as far as just I guess you could say the discovery process of finding out where they are and their goals or where they want to be?
The very first step is a discovery call with me. When somebody goes to my website and they say, I'm interested in this, I want to explore it, we book a discovery call. And that's some time for us to talk, for me to listen, to ask some questions, to discover a little bit more about where you are and where you want to go. And then we see if this is a good fit, because it's not always a good fit. And that's okay. Not every coach is perfect for everybody. You've got to find the right fit. If we determine that's it, then there are some things that I'm going to ask you to do. You're going to first take a couple of profiles that are going to help to determine some things about you that you might not even know around your skills, your passions, your talents, your personality. And as we begin to form that and see what that looks like, that's going to give us the lenses that we're going to look through as we look at your goals. Where do you want to go? What are some things you want to accomplish during our time together? The power of a coach is that a coach sees what you can't see. This is why every great athlete has a coach. This is why every great leader has a coach, because a coach sees what you can't see. You can't see the whole picture when you're in the frame. You need somebody from the outside who's going to look and give you a different perspective and help you to see the things that you simply can't see because of where you are.
There's always, what they say, life happens, right? We have our ups and downs. What's some examples that you had to deal with in your personal life where you had to stay focused on being the leader that you are meant to be?
There are always things that happen. You're exactly right. There's things that happen in your own leadership because of your own decisions. You might make a decision that in hindsight was not the right decision. Then you have to deal with the fallout from that. It might be decisions made by other people that affect you or the team or the organization that you lead. In either case, what do? The first step is to own what's yours. If you made a bad call, own it. Say, you know what? I made the bad call. This is on me. And then begin to take steps to lead out of it. If somebody else did it, you can't own that. You can only own what's yours to own. At that point, you have to say, okay, this is where we are. First, you define reality as it is, not as you wish it were. And then you say, now, where do we want to go from here? And you begin to plot the steps to take you there. That's a good leader. But it begins with defining where you are and understanding what's yours to own, what's not, then charting a path forward.
Once again, listen to iRefocus Radio, talking to Dr. William Attaway. You go visit his website, catalyticleadership.net. You do speaking, you write blogs, you have a book on the same topic, catalytic leadership. When people, we see it all the time on social media. We see the posters, how to be an entrepreneur, leader. That's nice. But when it comes to reality, though, this is something that you have to be committed to, even when you don't feel like it. It could be that life is going well, but you just have to be consistent. And whether you feel like it or not, you have to keep pushing yourself to grow versus get comfortable. And how important is it to find ways to stay consistent on this new idea that you want to explore versus I'm going to shrink back to my old ways?
A friend of mine, Jonathan Milligan, says consistency is the mother of momentum. Every leader I know wants to experience momentum in what they're leading. You know how you get there? One way, consistency. It's the daily 1, 1, 1. Every step matters. When I'm coaching leaders, this is one of the things that we go deep on, because I want to make sure that they're not expecting just a quick fix or, hey, if you just do these 3 things, everything is going to work out magically well and you're going to become a mature, wonderful leader. Okay, that's not how that works. Yeah. It takes intentional effort. It takes intentionality first. You have to choose to grow. I've never yet met a leader who one day woke up and said, wow, I'm a fully mature, developed leader. I don't know how that happened, but here I am. I didn't mean for that to happen. No, it takes intentionality. You have to choose to grow. You have to choose to develop and to mature. You have to choose to get better. That is a choice that takes consistency. And consistency over time compounds and generates momentum. So what you do daily matters far, far more than what you do every once in a while when you feel like it.
Yeah, like when you say choose to grow, because we make choices every single day, whether we believe it or not. And that's a good way to put it, because if we make it that simple and say, you know what, today I'm choosing to do what is that's necessary versus choosing what's ever going to make me feel comfortable. Because when you deal with people, how many times do you have, well, not how many times, but what do you do when you see someone shrink back to their old ways and they are remaining in their comfort zone versus someone who is pushing themselves to go to the extra mile?
You know, it's very common for us to shrink back to where we're comfortable. Growth happens on the other side of change. And for most people, change is uncomfortable. And unless it's your idea, we resist change, right? We don't want any part of it. I mean, if it's your idea, that's one thing. But if somebody else is bringing it, well, not so much. But growth only happens on the other side of change. And the tendency for any person is to want to fall back to where they're comfortable, not to press forward, not to lean in. What I do is I'm the guy who's going to challenge you. I'm the guy who's going to hold you accountable to what you say you want to do, where you say you want to go. If that's where you want to go, this is the path we've put together for you to get there. Every time we meet, we're going to talk about, where are you? Are you doing what you said you were going to do? We're going to make very concrete steps for you to get there. But ultimately, you have to choose. Here's the thing about getting better as a leader. All of us have circumstances that are beyond our control. All of us have reasons and excuses that we can give as to why we can't. Anybody can do that. Great leaders, catalytic leaders, are the ones who say, yeah, it's hard. Yeah, it's not convenient. Yeah, it's uncomfortable, but I'm still gonna take my next step. I'm still gonna get up. I'm still gonna do the very next thing today. That's catalytic.
And that's another great point, because, by the way, listen to I'm Refocused Radio, talking to Dr. William Attaway, and today's topic, the power of leadership coaching. Not only do we have to see the reality of where we are, but we have to not be embarrassed by where we are. Because are there times where maybe you personally, back in the day, or your clients that you work with, have a issue of feeling embarrassed that they're not further along than where they would like to be in life?
I don't know a leader, including myself, who wouldn't say, man, I should be farther along than I am. I should be. And there's a sense of shame attached with that word should be, those words. When we say that, what we're saying is, I should be, but I failed, but I didn't do what I could have, what I should have done. And that shame can trap you, and it can bind you up in such a way that you are frozen into inaction. That's not helpful. That is not going to help you to grow. That is not going to help you to be catalytic in your leadership. That is not going to help you to inspire others and lead at a higher level. And so what we have to do is we have to start where we are, not where we think we should be. If we start where we are and then say, where do we want to go from here? Then we can plot that path. And the shame and the regrets that are part of all of our journey, including my own, is something we can leave in the rearview mirror. And when those things come up, and they will, and when the enemy brings those things to mind and says, you could never possibly, because of you should be and you're not, that's when we say, you know what? I'm not where I should be maybe, but I'm not where I was. And this is where I'm going. And we keep focused forward. This is what I do as a leadership coach. I help you look forward to where you want to go and help you take the steps to get there and remove the obstacles that are holding you back. So often, shame and regret are two of the first ones we tackle.
What do you see when you see change, when the light finally comes on and they really start to engage in the skills and the practices that you teach them. What do you see on the outside looking into their life as far as their attitude and their outlook towards life when the light comes on?
The first thing I see is inconsistency. That may be not an expected answer there, but often when we're growing and when we're stepping out of a comfort zone, we're going to be inconsistent, right? We're going to take a step and then we're going to feel uncertain and we're going to kind of wobble back a half a step. And then we may take another step and then we may wobble a little bit. That's okay because we're still moving forward. And that's where encouragement comes in. I think Truett Cathy was spot on when he said, how do you know when someone needs encouragement? And he said, if they're breathing. Every one of us need encouragement. And that's part of what I do as your coach. You're not going to have a bigger fan than me. I'm going to cheer you on. I'm going to coach you to the success if you will keep taking the steps, even when you're uncomfortable. So inconsistency is the first thing I see. The second thing I see is the beginning of drive. That drive that will propel you forward. What brought you success at different points in your life was that internal drive. And when I see that beginning to flame up again, that's an indicator, hey, you know what? I think they got it. I think they're starting to take their next steps. And that's really when the steps stop being so wobbly and they start to come a little bit faster and they're a little more certain.
Man, that's good right there. And with faith being part of your life, how does that personally affect you as far as how you use that to be your motivator as well?
Faith is, I'm a person of faith, and that integrates into every part of my life. There's not a part that is carved out. Well, it doesn't really touch that. My relationship with Jesus affects everything. So understanding that's part of what it means to have me as a coach, right? That's my worldview. That's where I'm approaching this from. Many of my clients are not people of faith. That's okay. We're going to start where you are, not where you think you should be or I think you should be. My job is to cheer you to success. But my understanding of what success looks like, if you are truly going to intentionally grow and thrive in all parts of your life, then you need to understand that all parts of your life are connected. We have this idea that we inherited from the ancient Greeks that we can compartmentalize our lives and that what happens at home won't affect what happens at work and what happens at work won't affect what happens with our kids. And okay, that's a beautiful myth, but it's just a myth. The fact is everything in our lives affects everything else. And our faith is an integral part of that. We think our lives are like those plates that you have at Thanksgiving with the little walls that keep your food from touching. Those walls don't work in real life. Everything affects everything else. And if you don't believe that, start having some trouble at home and see how easy it is to leave that behind and not let that affect any other part of your life. Fact of the matter is, we are integrated beings. It's how we were created by God. So faith is an integral part of my life. And for my clients who are people of faith, that's going to be part of our conversation. We're going to talk about that and how that plays into how you lead.
Let's not Refocus Radio, talking to Dr. William Attaway, and go to his website. The website is catalyticleadership.net. And he has a book. That's catalyticleadershipbook.com. And I know that is definitely part of what you do. So let's touch on that while we have some time left. You share 12 key principles that can help leaders grow and add value to those they lead. And with that, when people are studying the book, what differentiates your book from all the other books on leadership? What makes you different in what you do?
It really comes out of my journey. Leading first in the business world and then leading for the last 25 plus years in a local church context. I've been coaching leaders for a very long time. And what I've discovered is that no matter their context, whether it's in government, whether it's in education or business or C-suite leaders or military leaders, no matter where they lead, there are principles that are consistent and that are transferable in those conversations. And so what I did in the book is take 12 of those principles that I see as transferable across context, no matter where you lead, that will apply to helping your leadership become catalytic. I've tried to capture those principles and boil them down. I've written it in a conversational style, so it feels like we're sitting across the table having coffee with one another. I want to share those principles with as many leaders as I can. And that's why I write about this. I speak about this so often, because I believe that if we can impact leaders and they become more catalytic and intentional in their leadership, not only will they grow and thrive, but those they lead will be affected and they will begin to grow and thrive as well.
And we talked about consistency, how important that is. And, the person, they have to choose, they have to make that decision. This is what I'm going to do. And it's almost like you can put yourself in a situation where you can talk a good talk, but you actually don't do the necessary things that proves your intention.
That's right.
When the person gets into that new but a new state of mindset of being a better leader and being a good example in their community, how do they keep their skills sharp? I mean, yes, they talk to you, but is it also they need to be aware of who they're around that can make them dull or make them sharp?
It begins with what I call the one non-negotiable of catalytic leadership. There's one thing, this is it. You've got to cultivate and keep a teachable spirit. What that means is that you are in a continual learning posture. That requires humility. That requires acknowledging that you don't know everything. And the fact is, none of us know everything. When we approach every conversation, every meeting, every situation, every circumstance with that posture, what can I learn here? When we do that, that is going to set us up to not drift into mediocrity. That is going to set us up to be catalytic and to make a difference. That's the one non-negotiable, because as we continue learning, we learn how to lead better. When we stop learning, when we stop being intentional about that, then we drift into mediocrity. And mediocrity inspires no one.
Once again, listen to I'm Refocused Radio. We're talking to our guest today, Dr. William Attaway. You can go to his website, catalyticleadership.net, and he also has a book. You go to that website, catalyticleadershipbook.com. And in today's world, we need leaders more than we ever did. When you are looking around and you see there's so much need in different communities, why is the time now a good time for people to take it serious, to become a leader, to become a better learner, student, if you will? Why is now the right time and not to push it off?
I think it's because the stakes are so high. We look around and there is an absence, there is a dearth of leadership in our world, in our communities, in our businesses, in our organizations, even too often in our churches. There's a dearth of leadership. Nobody wants to own anything. Nobody wants to say, hey, let's start from here and move forward. Instead, we just want to bemoan that things aren't like they used to be. We just want to point fingers and why it's somebody else's fault and this group's fault and this team's fault. That's not leadership. That's an absence of leadership. I think leadership is needed now more than ever. Leadership is influence at its core. John Maxwell's spot on with that. Leadership is influence. And if leaders will be catalytic and use their influence to point other people to something bigger than themselves, to a greater reality, understanding that we can do together what none of us can accomplish alone, that pointing fingers solves nothing, but that we can lead into a better tomorrow if we focus on the main things. If we stop pointing fingers and stop dividing and instead focus on what unites us. That's why I think leadership matters so much today, perhaps more than ever before.
And we've been talking about the power of leadership coaching. You listen to this right now, you want to surround yourself with people like our guest today, Dr. William Attaway, because your service, your program, Catalytic Leadership, it doesn't just help people, it also gives them tools to put in their tool basket to use for the rest of their life. And I think we're on a common theme in this conversation that this is like maintenance forever, not just maintenance and then you don't have to ever pick up the hammer and screwdriver for the rest of your life. I mean, don't we all wish it was that easy? And it's definitely not that easy. And speaking of not being that easy, so someone who might be disencouraged where they are in their life, generally speaking, what would you say to that person to encourage them to say, hey, it's not over? Because if you truly want to become a leader better, then that's half a step. But to take that full step is action. What would you say to that person who needs encouragement?
If you're still breathing, God's not done. You're not done. Your story's not over yet. Understand that you can start from where you are today. Not from where you think you should be, not from where you wish you were, but start from today. And you can build from here. It's not too late. You can do this. It takes intentionality, it takes hard work, it takes commitment, and it takes a focus on acquiring and maintaining a teachable spirit. But if you're willing to do that, I will help you build into where you want to go. You simply have to take the first step.
Man, that's good right there, man. You listen to this. I hope this inspires you because there's a great message. Talking to our guest, Dr. William Attaway. You can go to his website, catalyticleadership.net, and also his book website. You can go to catalyticleadershipbook.com. Man, before we let you go, what's anything you want to share our audience as we wrap this up? What you want to tell our audience?
If I could communicate one thing, it would be that growth does not happen by accident. Growth takes intentionality. You have to choose it. And no matter where you are, no matter where you've been, you can choose to start today. And I want to challenge you. I want to challenge you to do that. Take your first step toward where you want to go.
Once again, listen to Refocus Radio. Had the privilege talking to Dr. William Attaway. I learned so much from this conversation. I hope the listener as well does. And I want to say thank you for taking time in your schedule talking to Refocus Radio today.
It's been an honor to be with you. Thanks so much for having me.